Well, I think we're trying to take advantage of this opportunity that we have right now. Of course, our guys would probably prefer to be playing games and staying in rhythm in that regard. But we have to understand the importance of while we're in school as well. And part of that is for us to understand the value of an education. We have an opportunity to continue our studies. We have an opportunity to finish up strong this semester academically with finals, papers, and so forth. So, I've always said no matter where I coach, who I coach, our standards are going to be high in everything that we do. And I think our players really understand that I take everything serious because I know there's a long life after the sport and they need to be prepared for it. And it's up to us as their mentors and the young men and women in our professions that are guiding these student athletes to pour into them in everything that they do, not just how many shots they make for you. So that's what we're using this time for. I've been excited about our guys and what we've been working on over this last week and a half with regards to things that we need to improve on. So although we're not playing, there are other areas that we have to improve on the court, and I think we're working on those things as well.
Coach, obviously it's always a process when you recruit these guys. You don't have long to recruit them in the portal. So based on what you assembled in the summer, what did you think you had, and what have you finally learned about this team as you've gone through a course of games with them?
Well, I thought we had a team that had good talent. I thought we had a team that had good depth. Those are things that I had seen in studying these young men when they were in the portal. I knew that it would be a challenge. You only have a lot of these student athletes for around 6 to 9 months now, so it's a short period of time. So trying to install your system, your culture, your standards is a challenge. And fortunately, I've had good leadership, from a player perspective. My assistant coaches are amazing. And I think they've done a great job at having these young men understand what we want, because everyone's system is very good wherever these players have been, but everyone's system is also different. It's unique, and they're having to adjust to that. And to adjust to that, I look back on my playing days, and it took me years to adjust to some of the things I had to do, for my system when I was a college player. And these young men are having to fast forward that and now get all that done in 9 months. Now, fortunately, they do have the opportunity to have the summer and more time in the fall than we were able to have when we were playing. They couldn't touch us then. And so that gives us a chance to play catch up in some of those areas and get some of these habits down. But it's still a challenge. And so those are things that I've seen with our student athletes thus far.
Coach, I'm sure you've seen it a ton, the best start to a season that you've had since your time being the head coach of UCF. Is this about as good as a start you could have asked for?
Yeah, I'm never satisfied, Andrew. For me, the best start would have been we would be undefeated. I mean, that's the best way we could start. And I'm proud of our guys for the effort that they've put out, and our staff for the preparation that we've had, before, for each opponent. But, I want my guys to always understand that, you're always striving to be better, and I don't look at the overall record that we have right now. I just look at, and I talk to them all the time about, let's not grade ourselves versus our opponents. Let's grade ourselves versus what our expectations are internally, what our standards are internally. Let's grade ourselves on that every night. And that's what we will continue to do. And, I don't look at the overall compiled record other than, all we're trying to do is, see the next opponent in front of us and trying to find a way to win that one game.
Did that stat surprise you, considering some of the non-conference success you've had in your 10 years here at UCF?
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought it until like you said, I mentioned it earlier. I'd seen that written, and I wouldn't have thought that. I wouldn't have known that. But I don't concentrate on each one of our games. As regard to like, okay, here's what we've done in the preseason. I'm just looking at always the next opponent. You've heard me coming here time and time again. Very rarely I'll be able to tell you who's 2 games down the road. I know who's right in front of me, and that's what we pour ourselves into, because that's how I want to train our players to pour themselves into. Who's right in front of us? Let's make sure we're focused and prepared for that. Whatever happened in the past, it happened. Whether it's good or bad, let's learn from it. And then what's going on in the future is just that immediate game in front, not 2 games, 3 games, 4 games in front of us. Just a game that's right there. Let's pour everything that we can into that opponent.
Johnny, do you feel like this team is gelled? You're so far where you guys are at now. Do you feel like they've gelled really well, or do you feel like there's so much more room for more improvement before you even get into conference play?
I think We're getting better. I think we're playing off each other better. I look at, taking care of the basketball is improving. I look at, us connecting offensively. That usually determined by how many assists we have. So I think our guys are sharing the basketball and playing for each other. Is there room to grow? Absolutely. I see, the potential of this group. I've seen what they're capable of doing. And I've seen from start to now, guys understand their roles a little better. Guys aren't out there doing things that they really can't do as well. Guys are basically playing to their strengths offensively and defensively. And can all that be better? Definitely. We grade our guys harshly. We just do. But I think they're doing a good job of trying to, echo and do the things that we're asking from them as a staff.
This non-conference schedule that you guys were able to put together this season has put you guys in a pretty interesting position when it comes to, postseason now that bracketology reports are coming out and all that. When you ended up assembling this schedule, what was kind of your thought process when you saw some of the people whether it's going to A&M, bringing Vandy here, several mid-major conference favorites?
Well, as we've talked about before, we've always wanted to play a challenging preseason schedule. I think if you look back on our track record, I can't think of a season where we haven't challenged our players, and that's something we will continue to do. I don't think you can prepare yourself to have success in conference if you don't have a challenging preseason schedule. And so, I've learned that a long time ago. I've lived by that as a coach. And so every year we try to put together the best schedule we can to make sure our players, when it comes time to transition to conference play, that they've seen a lot of different styles of play, and they've competed against some teams that are very, very challenging as well.
Arturo Dean, who I guess wasn't on a roster to start the season, former Oklahoma State guard. I know he announced a couple months ago that he was committing to UCF, and I know he put on social media, I think yesterday, that he was in Orlando. So I'm not sure what you can say or not. Is he here, and now that the semester's over, is he going to be part of your program?
We can't really speak on prospective student athletes, unfortunately, at this time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure I do it right.
Okay.
So the compliance don't call me down
Okay.
here. I'm gonna walk from here right over to the other office, and here I go.
Johnny, when you look at this break, this 10-day stretch for you guys, where you guys aren't playing, and you got finals and stuff like that. How do you keep the players sharp, though? I mean, you guys have had such a good streak right now. You're in a hot streak. How do you keep them maybe kind of focused on making sure they're doing the things they need to continue to do on the court? So you don't maybe take a step back. Having maybe this. And how does this help you guys? Last year, you guys had lots of injuries. How does this maybe help keep your guys fresh too as well?
Well, I think what you just mentioned there is very important for us, Matt. We have a situation now where ideally you want to keep playing and staying in rhythm. Now, that's always a good thing. And what player doesn't want to do that? I played. I understand it. Like, hey, practicing again. I want to get out there and compete against someone else. We all have been there, but there are some things, especially when in this new age where you have as much turnover as you have, these days become invaluable with regards to still installing, your system. There's no way they can have it all down based on the newness of what they're learning from our staff compared to the previous staffs. So we want to use these days to help us get better. There are areas that we need to improve in. Our players know that. And we're just concentrating on those things, just really concentrating on skill development, both offensively and defensively right now. Keeping our guys in shape, that's very, very important during this stretch. I always say you got to run Thanksgiving dinner off of them, So trying to make sure that we're in good shape. And as you mentioned earlier, and looking at our players, looking at our, guys and saying, okay, who's in what position, who's fairly healthy, who is battling some lingering injuries. This gives us a chance to kind of have those guys, recover, as well as the guys that are able to go out there and do more, continue to learn our system and hopefully get better at it.
Coach, I think a comment that you've made this season a ton is that the players are buying into your system and your philosophy. What has worked differently this non-conference season than maybe prior years that you guys have had this level of success?
Well, when you bring in, like I said, an entire new roster, the one thing you bringing in, all different personalities. And so guys come with different beliefs and things that they want to accomplish and so forth. And you're trying to get everybody on the same page as fast as humanly possible, because we don't have time to waste like that. Because a season, we always tell our players, a season's like a lifetime. It begins, you're born in the preseason, and you die at the end. And so what are you doing from that beginning to end point is very, very important. and our overall success. And like I said, we've been fortunate. We've had some really good teams with really talented players. You know, I think this group has been really good from the standpoint of as many of these guys that are here taking in the information that we're giving them, understanding that we're only here to help them. We're here to help them get better individually, and in turn, that helps us, you know, be really good collectively. So that's been our approach. I think our players realize that we pour into them with their individual skill development. I think we're as good as anybody at doing those things. My staff is terrific at that. And with that, the responsibility is to understand as we're developing those skills and you're getting better in certain areas that you apply it to what we need to do as a team. You know, because it's all about team right now. Once you hit, you know, September, October, it's strictly about team. And you have to throw the individual things out the window because team success is the most important. And so your development between spring and summer is huge. Come fall and winter, you have to take that and that's to translate into how good can you be to help our, you know, team be successful.
Your team is averaging 43 points a game in the paint. It's on pace to be the most in the last couple of years of your teams. You're making the same amount of threes, but in less attempts, more efficient. Was that a point of emphasis among the staff with this roster, or is it just a result of the personnel?
No, definitely. You know, there was some intent with, you know, with us in the portal and recruiting guys to kind of, you know, up our level of what we do efficiently as far as our offense is concerned. I think if you look at, you'll see the trend started last year, and then this year it's a carryover because we started making that transition to what I felt was going to be more important in this new day and age of basketball. You know, where it's headed. I thought we needed to make sure we recruit personnel that would really fit and have success in this new era. And I think we've been able to find guys that have been able to, you know, really help us in that area. And then shoring up our defense becomes the main thing that we have to do. And we've done that fairly well throughout our time here. And we have to continue to make sure we harp on that to get that at the level that I want it to be. And I think our players are starting to understand how important that is, and they have to continue to pour themselves into that side of the basketball.
Themis
Couple more.
had the 20-point game against Towson. He's had 26 assists compared to 6 turnovers in his last 3 games. So compared to maybe the first night or two of the season, what have you noticed about the way he's been able to command that end of the floor?
Well, I think he's getting more comfortable in his role. Remember, again, he comes from another place. We had to do maybe a lot more than he had to do here for them to be successful where he was. And I think what he's done is, you know, through a lot of film, a lot of, you know, discussions and then seeing what he can do on the court, I think he's finding out how he can be successful and how he can help his team. You know, Themis is a point guard. And so when you have a real point guard, you know, and we've had this discussion, his ability to know when to and when not to becomes very, very important. Like he has really, you know, talented personnel around him. And so when they have it going and he's, you know, finding guys, that's great. But some nights, you know, it's basketball. We've all been there. Some nights it's not going like you wanted to go. And I think, you know, real point guard leaders, that's when they step in and they fill that void, you know, not just what they do with passing, but with their ability to score the basketball. And I think what you've seen, like all of a sudden he gets 20 one night. But that doesn't surprise me because he's done that before in college. Then all of a sudden he has 10 assists, 13 assists one night. He's just giving us what the team needs. And that's where I think he's gotten better from, you know, game 1 to now, is recognizing when to and when not to, you know, make those decisions on the floor. And so I've watched him grow. Which, like for me as a coach, like I said, and we mentor these young men, you know, and teach them. It's just fun watching guys, you know, get better in the system or a better understanding of what, especially at that position, he and I need to be joined at the hip. So at the point guard position, so I want him to be able to go out there and run it without me having to say a whole lot of anything. When I start getting ready to say, hey, we in 40, he's already saying 40. I'm like, oh, dang, we're on the same page. Oh, I want to run horn. He already saying, hey, horns. Then I know we're on the same page with what we want. And we're getting there. That's not there yet, but like I said, we're in, 9 games? You know, so that's a process. But he is, you can see the improvement. He's getting more comfortable and more confident in his role.
Coach, we're about to speak with Chris Johnston and John Bull. What are the kind of growths that you've seen from them this non-conference season?
In both of those young men case, I've seen them grow a great deal. From you talking about from June to now. In John's case, you know, I've seen John come in, and John's always had an amazing, you know, he's a competitor, and he plays with great energy. You know, he plays hard out there on the floor. And now, you know, you want to have that translate into him getting, you know, more experience on the court, which he's been able to get with us. You know, this season the more experience he gains. With his work ethic, the sky's the limit for how good he can be. He's just a function of keep on coming in every day, keep working hard, keep listening to his coaches. And he's really helped us. I mean, he's had games where he's come in and given us a huge spark just by making plays with his energy, making extra effort, plays. And he's getting better, around the basket with finishing and making moves. Of course, he's, defensively, he's a presence just with his overall size and length. He's a presence defensively. So that's what I've seen in him. And like I said, his best basketball is ahead of him. All he needs to do is continue to come in every day, put his head down and work. And he's going to have a bright future in our sport. With regards to Chris Johnson, very similar. Watching him come in, in June and watching kind of, where he had been prior to and his overall growth. And, a young man that has a bright future, a lot of potential. And he's a guard that's a point guard, combo guard. He can play multiple positions. I was very similar to that in my regard. So I really, him, I can see a lot of things from the guard position. I can't really see all the things from, the center position because I never played that spot, but I have great guys that do coach it. But at Chris' position, I mean, the sky's the limit for how good he can be. I mean, he has all the talent in the world to have a great career in our sport. His is just a function of just coming in every day, as I was mentioning about John, coming in every day and understanding the importance of practice and not just playing games. That practice are very important for your growth and overall how you're going to performing as you continue to mature as a player. And I think he's done a good job of that. He comes in, he competes every day in practice. I think as he continues to learn his role, I mean, these guys have been to multiple schools, so that's multiple terminologies. Where they call this defense blue, we call it red. They call this, offense, motion. We call it 2-3 high, and so they always are kind of figuring out like, okay, what is it? Well, that was called this where I was. And so as he can, continues to get better and feel better about all the things that we're doing and understanding that this is our system right here, and yeah, it may have been called something different there, and I know that you're making that transition, and we understand these kids are making that transition, that he's going to be fine. So because he can lead, he has a toughness about him, he has a competitiveness about him that I love, and that's both he and John. It's just a function of them just continuing to gain experience and mature, but both of them have bright futures.
Your next
Last
game,
question.
Your next game's against Mercer. Ryan Ritter's their head coach, Daytona Beach guy. Do you have any sort of relationship or familiarity with him through the years?
I do not. I know Ryan, of course, from being in our basketball world, but I don't know him well. But a very good coach. He's had a lot of success. I think he's coached with his third Division I head coaching job. And for a fairly young coach, that shows he's had a lot of success in what he's done. I want to say, I think he's on staff for Coach Lang, one of my assistant coaches, my associate head coach. I think they were on staff together as well. But no, I've mostly been studying, those guys, and I'm studying them more now. But I know he's a great guy from the times that we've been able to meet and interact. And but that's the extent of what I know about him.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot, Coach.
All right, guys.